Hi again, this is Meredith Mustard here, speaking to you from my studio, To Imagine Studios, TWO. You can find us on the web and Instagram, Facebook. And I'm going to talk some more about sources for images for image transfer with a jelly plate. And a lot of times people don't think about what is possible beyond magazines. And I've used some magazines, but really a lot of books. I've frequented, not so common right now in the middle of COVID, but sales at libraries, book sales, often really inexpensive, and you can find some interesting books with images in them. Used bookstores, antique stores sometimes. Always looking for, some cheap book that nobody cares about. So here are some of the ones that I have picked up. This is one called Destructive and Useful Insects. I'm going to put this more down to the table so that hopefully you can see what's in here. So there are some sort of diagrams and real clear pictures, drawings of insects. Here, these are great. Real clear black and white, a little bit of gloss to the paper, which I find is often good. Doesn't always work. This takes a lot of experimenting. I also have a couple books on freshwater invertebrates and lots of, I believe, hand-drawn creatures. They're very mysterious looking, some of them just kind of creepy. But it's a great source. I like technical drawings. They're often black and white. They're very interesting. This was from a book on travel. Let's see, there were maps for freight trains all over the country. So different maps, and they transferred really, really well. So if you like maps, keep your eye out for all kinds of maps, because you never know which ones will transfer, and they make really interesting patterns sometimes for backgrounds that you want to put something else on top of. This was from a plant book, an old plant book. These are from turn of the century, 1920s, and really interesting drawings. They're drawings of plants. Sometimes that's also drawings. Sometimes photographs. But I need to say also I'm an abstract artist, so even when I use images, I often use them in an abstract way, or I combine them so they're kind of abstract. This is National Geographic. I find they transfer really quite well, but always looking for ones that have clearly delineated images in them. Sometimes you can pick stuff up from something that's complicated like this with a lot of detail, but when the values in the picture are too close together, too similar, they often don't transfer very well. Another way to check that is use your phone, take a quick photo of something in color and turn it into black and white on the phone in the edit, and you'll see how much contrast you have and whether it looks like it will transfer. Also, I think I mentioned before, type, which is high contrast. And sometimes it's fun to find a headline and then put it into a picture, and or into a print, and it will speak to something different from what the words were originally intentioned, the original intention. I also find sometimes this kind of graphic is fun to transfer. These are more National Geographics. Just really interesting images. And many of the images don't work. They get really complicated, but anything's worth trying if you find it interesting. I was really taken with this. A couple boots juxtaposed with something else can be a really interesting way to go. Now here's another series type of book that I found really fun. These are kids' basic readers. You can find them in used bookstores and antique stores. And it's a little bit, it's a coated paper, so it has that little bit of smoothness to it. And a lot of these images will transfer really nicely. I mean, it's amazing how well they do, and you'll see the figures in them. And maybe it's because they're outlines on a lot of the drawings, but lots of fun pictures in them. Here's another source that I had these as source books for years. I worked with kids, and just for inspiration that they could look through these books, and I pulled them out and went, okay, look at all these great images. And these transfer beautifully, really beautifully. So they're little images, sometimes just having the boxes, and juxtaposing them with something else is good too. Here's another direction to go. It's an embroidery book. It's an old book that I had. I don't know where I picked it up. Let me see, I've got too many books here on the table. And this book has a lot of the drawings for embroidery, and some of the old embroideries too. But these can transfer beautifully and give you a background pattern. I think you can see that. And then put something else on top of it. But lots of really interesting. So, you know, as you look through books, you will figure out what it is that you like. I love this little book. This was, you know, I don't know, it was a couple bucks in our local used bookstore. And it has lots of really clear plants and flowers. Very fun to add in from place to place. These I probably would print on a small plate so that I didn't have a lot of junk around them when I transferred them into a piece that I'm working on. Now, I found a bookstore that had a rack out front, and all the books on the rack were $1. And I found some just really interesting. These old photographs that are black and white often do well. Anyway, for $1, I thought it was worth a try, and it turned out to be kind of a gold mine. I'm also a calligrapher and lettering artist from a previous life. So I really love graphics. And sometimes transferring something that's very graphic will give you a little bit to work with. It's not necessarily an image that you can recognize, but you know, at some point I will show you some samples of places where I've used things like this. Like I might transfer a page like this just because it has these square shapes in it, which I find very interesting. So I'm wrestling this light here. Hold on a second. Okay. Now, this is a book that I came across somewhere and have really enjoyed working with. In fact, I used it up pretty much. I offered it to people in a class that I taught, and that took care of a lot of the pages from it. It's a facsimile of newspaper headlines from the Los Angeles Times. And even though it's newsprint, it's printed on newsprint, they transfer really well, all this type. And what I've found is I will put it into a piece, and then after I've done the piece, I'll notice that the words that show up relate to the other images, and it was not intentional. So I kind of used this book up in some of the best headlines and pages, the ones that I really like. And I went online and I found another copy of it because I'm going to keep using it. Another book, used bookstore. This was $5, and it is all kinds of decorative details from all over the place. Has just a little bit of coat to the page. They're very delicate drawings, so there's a very particular way that I will transfer them, and I'll show you that. When you get this kind of delicate line work, Sometimes it will get lost when you try to transfer it, but I figured out a secret for using it. Here was another book, Love Cameras. I think as an object, they're very interesting. So this book is full of interesting old cameras, and a camera image in a print with juxtaposed with other things can be very interesting. I came to a place where I wanted circles, and I thought bicycles, that would be great. And I found this book with motorcycles. Now it's very glossy, and there are different challenges depending on the paper, on how to transfer it. So I know a lot of times people get discouraged when they're trying to do image transfers because they can't be successful. And so I'm going to talk a little bit when I demonstrate actually printing with these on what you can try if you're not getting a good image, but it seems like it's a good source. This is a Life magazine special on the American immigrant. These images transfer really well, so I've enjoyed that magazine a lot. And then you get into regular magazines, and Vogue is really good for transferring. If you want people, you know, if you're looking for a human subject matter, it's a good place to look. And this, again, National Geographic, this is a publication of theirs. I kept it because there's all kinds of little images in it, and I know that I could pull something out of there. This was a special collector's edition from Time magazine. Once again, has all kinds of strange images, like, well, this is food for thought, invented cuisine. So it's just fun, you know. If you transfer something like this into an image, you're going to end up with some fun stuff showing up. More of always looking for some odd little thing, and I found this little book of airplanes. They transfer beautifully. It's a little bit of a coated stock. Very nice. These are some plates from an old book of some microscopic things that have been drawn. More of those maps. So some of these, I can't show you the book because I took the whole book apart. This is Freight Tariff Bureau and Transcontinental Freight Bureau territories. For all over the United States. Another source that I found really fun is art magazines. I had a subscription to Art in America, and I found some really fun stuff in it to transfer. Now, if you're thinking about selling something and putting it out on the market, you probably don't want to take somebody else's artwork and put it front and center. But I think bits and pieces out of something because you're transforming it is a great idea. Another Vogue magazine. I subscribed to Vogue because I knew it was good for transferring. The Family of Man. Now, this is a book that I know is around a lot of places, and because it's all black and white, you get a pretty good sense of which pictures will transfer, and there's a bunch of fun stuff in there. Now, maps. So I get all kinds of books on maps, and some of them will transfer. When they have this much detail, they're not always that great. So I keep looking for those good map books. Book of Birds. This one I've completely decimated. Did really well with the images, transferring images out of it. The particular birds. And later I will show you what you can do with some of these images. I've made books, and the birds often show up in the books. Here's another kids book, Bird Life for young people. And really good because they don't put a lot of background in a lot of these. So they're great for transferring. You get that little edgy stuff and then a blank so you can put it into a piece of your artwork and it doesn't have too much extra detail. This is a book of American type. There's one that I already transferred, another one. But I keep them because they're front and back. And these are fun. Some of the newer type sample books have repeat the same type. This has really different words on each page. So that's fun. Gill, halt, brisk, single, explain, simple catalogs, broken, new string, judgment, you know. So even if you do it, you can always cut them apart and find words. And, you know, it's an opportunity for found poetry. Jelly print, transfer, found poetry. Nothing like it. Now, here's a book that I just had on my shelf. I love Steinberg's drawings, and I look at this. They're so perfect for image transfer. They're so identifiable as his artwork that I wouldn't feel comfortable like doing something up front and center. But I have done some pieces with some of his stuff, and there are ways of sort of obliterating it, so it's not so much his. This is a Dover book. There are lots of Dover books out there on different subject. This one is on a slightly coded sheet, so I can pull some images out of it. Look at this, just the whole book of hands. How fun is that to play with? And this is a book that I wasn't sure was going to do very well, but I've pulled some really cool images out of it in the graphic parts. A lot of the animals, it's just a little bit too mushy to get a good draw from it. But any of the drawings, this kind of chart work. I love that technical stuff. You put it into a piece of artwork, it makes you wonder, what is it? What is that? And then again, one of my very favorite things is maps. So I found this book, and I did spring for, I think it was a little bit more. It might have been like $12 or something. But they're just these great maps, you know, with little great details and borders. And I love this kind of line work, you know, so that you can get that in a print. And even if you don't know exactly what it is you're looking at, it's very interesting. A little bit of type. And just lots of really interesting stuff in there. So that's basically what I work with, and that's probably all you need to know, but I'm going to just take you around. I think I'm going to flip this, and I'll show you in my studio a little bit more. I don't think I can flip it. So I'll just take you around and show you a little bit more of what I work with. So I've got books. You know, I have books. I have, oh, here's one that I found. Let me see if I can line this up. I'm trying to do this backwards. This is a book of maps. It has something to do with trees. But these maps, they're a little bit ugly, so well, that's unfortunate. But they transfer really well. Here's the other thing that I have done. Hold on a sec. I have a table right across from where I work. And I have, how do I do this? I can't flip it around again. I have boxes, and when I pull a book apart, I'll put them into the boxes. And then here's where I work, and I'll show you this again later. I'll figure this one out a little bit better. Geez, I'm not sure where the camera is on this thing. Anyway, that's all I have to say. And I will be posting this and then moving on to the next thing. And I'm sort of mapping this out a little bit. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is some of the materials you're going to need to effectively do this process. So stay tuned, and I'll show you more. Bye.